Welcome back to another episode of the Working in Hockey Show. I'm your host, Nick Bowins, and today I'm super excited to be joined by Dave Fischer, Senior Director of Communications for USA Hockey. It's been an awfully big year for USA Hockey. Dave, how you been?
Nick, it has been a lot of fun and really a historic year for USA Hockey, and it's fun to share obviously the joy of winning gold medals transcends throughout the country, and it's just been fun to share in the joy with people when we came back from Milan. It continues here today, and I'm sure will continue for some time ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we should dive into that right away to kick things off here, Dave. What have the last 6 months or so been like since the men's team won gold, the women's team won gold, and the para team won gold overseas there?
Well, anytime you have that kind of success, it brings lots of opportunity. The Olympics and Paralympics is always the biggest visibility point for our sport every 4 years, and provides the most chance. I mean, certainly we can always reach the hockey enthusiasts, but as we attempt to grow the sport and share the joy of hockey with as many families as possible across the country, having that kind of outsized visibility, the great job NBC does in storytelling through the Olympics, and the opportunities that you have for some of the non-endemic stuff with people and varying media platforms, the entertainment industry, things that come up through the Olympics. We always try and capitalize on it. So some of the things since we've come back, of course, right out of the games, I'm sure fans have seen some of the stories of the invitations to the White House, recently stuff in Las Vegas going on around our women's team. We've had we've got the Celebrity Family Feud with some of our athletes on that. There are numerous things within NHL and PWHL circles, college hockey programs, when athletes have come back to honor them, all kinds of talk shows and things our athletes have been doing. Again, we get continual requests for things like that still today, and I'm sure that will continue, and a lot of the stuff goes directly to some of the agents too that we're aware of but aren't directly involved in. So it's fun to celebrate the sport. It will draw further interest, and we just know that there'll be more people playing our sport. We had a record year this past season, most number of players, coaches, and officials all time within USA Hockey, and that will be eclipsed, I'm quite certain, this coming season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that number is only going to continue to grow. And, mentioned we were at Fanatics Fest over the weekend there, and just seeing the number of USA Hockey jerseys for Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes, and the brothers lined up there signing autographs, taking photos, everybody yelling at Jack about his teeth. Like, it's one of those things, the Olympics, it transcends a particular sport, right? And it drives the nation together. And it was, even as a Canadian, I can acknowledge, Dave, that it was a very good thing for the USA to win this one. It only means good things for our game, right?
It does, and it's, again, have had a lot of wonderful opportunities and moments over the course of my time involved in hockey. I don't know that anything can top the surreal moment of being there in person right next to the glass, both for our women's, with our women's team and our men's team. And again, beating our arch rival, both in overtime. I mean, it is, again, you were on the opposite side of it. But for us that were on the other side of it, it was quite the moment, no doubt about it.
Yes. Yes. Now, the hockey gods cooked up a pretty good script with both of those, but I want to dive a little bit more into your particular role there, Dave. As I mentioned, Senior Director of Communications with USA Hockey. For somebody maybe just looking to learn a little bit more about the industry or the different roles within it, what does your role entail? What's a day look like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's changed a bit. I think this is my 23rd season here coming up. So again, in the course of that time, we've had kind of the digital transformation of the landscape. I think maybe 2010 kind of got going pretty heavily, but again, everybody has their own front porch now to tell their own stories through their website and through social channels and other digital means. That really wasn't prevalent when I started. So a lot of what we did was relative to just, again, at the end of the day, you're in PR, you're in storytelling and sharing stories to further the sport, to celebrate the sport and those people that are involved in it. So a lot of the stuff, and we still do work with the traditional news media, you might say, that would be, the television providers, that would be newspapers, if you will. Some of the stuff is still printed. There's plenty, obviously, just online as well. Again, that traditional news sector, radio still going on, and work with them to help them understand and showcase what we're doing within USA Hockey and the storylines that go along with it as it's growing along. Obviously, now we have our own channels to tell our story. So we have, within my role is media, public relations, and content is also part of it. So we have a content kind of track and a PR track. There's a lot of intersection within our group. And of course, work very closely with our marketing people and the organization as a whole. But at the core, USA Hockey is a youth sports organization. So we provide the foundation for youth ice hockey in our country. We're entwined with a lot of storytelling in and around youth hockey, a lot of the education pieces we do to parents and families to help them. And of course, probably the most visible thing we do is support our teams on the international stage, the Olympics, Paralympics, the World Championships. And of course, when you have success, again, that draws a lot of attention to your sport more than really anything else that we do. And that helps further our mission, again, to share this great sport with as many families as possible as we can and continue to grow it across our country, which, again, when I started in this, it was, really Minnesota, Massachusetts, and Michigan, the three big states. Now hockey's in all 50 states, and it's a national sport in our country, which is really fun to see.
Yeah, no, it's incredible to see the growth and the maps with all the little dots of the different rinks and where players come from, and it just keeps expanding and growing. You talk about kind of the education, the storytelling piece there, Dave. And again, you mentioned youth hockey as well. I think that gets lost sometimes. We think about USA Hockey, we think about the Olympics and the gold medals, but it really does start with as soon as you can put on skates and start playing the game, right? How much education, training, coaching, etc., are you guys focused on with youth sports today? Because again, those numbers, they're only going up year over year, and there is more education to our game needed than just pick up this ball and throw it or kick it, right?
No, and I think that's exactly right, Nick. And one thing as a parent myself that just makes me smile every day is our unending desire to provide the best possible environment for families and kids within youth hockey. I hearken back to, at the forefront, of course, is safety, and that's the top priority here every day, the safety of the game, equipment rules, and we have a committee of professionals dedicated to that alone, and I see that every day. That's number one. That couples with fun as well. And to get to fun, you have to have a great development model. And I think it was about mid 2000s, we were losing kids, especially boys. And we sought out to find out why. And we did a nationwide survey, and it came back to the fun factor was part of it, time commitment and cost. And we had never had a nationwide blueprint for our associations across the country to utilize. Again, hockey continued to turn through the Miracle on Ice in the 80s and 90s. The women win in the first Olympic gold medal in 98. And the Paralympic sled team, first gold medal in 2002. And the churn of hockey continued. It got broader and bigger, but we never had a blueprint. So we spent 2 years on research and launched the American Development Model in 2009. And really, what that is essentially is for kids at 8U, 10U, 12U, and up the ladder, it's a blueprint for coaches to utilize and what should be part of their practices and education, because what an 8-year-old should be learning is not the same as what a 14-year-old, and the structure of your practices should not be the same. So we spent a lot of time on that. It was one of the seminal moments of USA Hockey. It was, especially at the youngest age groups, it was pretty controversial at the time because at the 8U model, it was downsizing the playing surface to half or cross ice. Hockey is very traditional, as you know. But I think the proof is in the pudding today. It was very gratifying, I think, for everybody within USA Hockey who worked on that. In 2014, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee came to us and asked if they could utilize the name American Development Model, adopt the marks, and then roll it out throughout all of the national governing bodies of sport within the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic umbrella. I think there are about 50 some. Of course, they're going to adapt it to each sport. But again, to have the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, that's quite an affirmation, I think, to our sport. And that's been one of the biggest drivers that has kept me here and engaged is the passion and fuel for always trying to move things forward, grow, and again, provide the best possible environment for our families and kids.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear, and I think on the storytelling and kind of coverage component of it too, Dave. Players are in the limelight more than ever, right? Players have personal brands online. They're asked different questions and stories than maybe they were 20 years ago, and there's a lot more attachment to individual players as opposed to sometimes their teams or clubs nowadays. What does USA Hockey do to say maybe World Juniors development camps or the national team development program? How much media training and kind of privacy training do you give young players coming up with these kind of changing landscapes of coverage and access for players?
Yeah, and you're exactly right, and that's again within our realm in communication. We're ultimately trying to find the right channel to further get the message out to the intended audience, right? And your point about athletes and their brands, and that's really that fans want that. They're fine to hear from USA Hockey as an organization, but the athletes is certainly what sell the sport. And this digital landscape is really good in many respects and gives us many opportunities. It also, for people that, like myself, that are in PR and waiting for the next, not waiting for the next crisis, but again, what's going to happen? Things take off, and boom, it's 30 seconds, and life's on fire, so to speak. But it depends on the age group of the athlete. To get to your question, we certainly do media training at the National Team Development Program, where our top 16 and 17-year-old men's players are in that residency program for 2 years. Another great success and idea by Ron DiGregorio, who was vice president international at the time for USA Hockey. And of course, the proof is in the pudding, and the value that's provided to help us in success, not only at the international level, but also, of course, helping players evolve more Americans in the National Hockey League and professional hockey. But we do media training there pretty intensely to try and help those young kids. When we get up the ladder, we certainly do it with the national junior team. We do it with our under 18 women's and men's teams, the world championship. When you get up to that Olympic level, the senior men's and women's world championships, not quite as intense. Certainly put reminders out. Those players are and staff, they're a little bit more seasoned, have been through the wars, of course, but certainly have some stories along the way of things on social and that digital landscape that you go, oh boy, fires you had to put up and things you had to clean up. But that's part of life. None of us are perfect. As long as there's no malintention, I can live with it.
Absolutely. No, that's well said. That's well said. And you mentioned over 20 plus years now with USA Hockey, Dave. Prior to that, about 17 years you spent at Michigan Tech University. Tell me a little bit about that experience, how you first got started on this kind of career path, and what differs going from, a particular college or institution to, all right, USA Hockey, it's the whole country now.
Yeah, I would tell you that I never would have dreamed that I'd be sitting in this chair today. Back in the day, Nick, I'm always a lover of sports. Actually, my formative years, grades 1 through 10, we lived in Bettendorf, Iowa. That was 1970 to 1980, and there really was no hockey there then. And I played sports until I was in 6th grade, and then I had asthma so bad I had to quit everything. But I still stayed involved as a writer, a student manager. I was a sports official for a long time, PA announcer. I did PA for minor league baseball, actually, when I was in 9th grade for the Quad City Cubs. So, tried to get a lot of varied experience. And we moved back to Minnesota my last 2 years of high school, really got the hockey bug then. Then I went to Minnesota Duluth for college, and we were pretty good in hockey when I was there and had some names people might be familiar: Brett Hull, Norm McIver, Tom Curvers, etc. It's really a fun time in Bulldog hockey. But when I got to UMD, I really was kind of a lost puppy. I probably, like many, when you get going in college, trying to figure out life. And I went to Mass at the Kirby Student Center one December Wednesday. I'll never forget it, sitting around a table with 10 people. And one person was dressed in all sweats. And after the Mass was over, I went up and just introduced myself and asked him if he had anything to do with athletics. And he said, yeah, my name is Dukes Knutson. I'm the sports information director here at UMD. And I was like, what is that? What does it mean? He told me a little bit about what he did. And he said, I said to him, I'd be happy to help out if you need any help. And he said, well, stop by. We can always use help. So I stopped by the next day and every day thereafter. And that's kind of how I got started down this lane, would have never dreamed it. And then by good fortune, as a young kid right out of college at 22, I think I was hired as a head sports information director at Michigan Tech, and which I still think back of today and think how lucky I was. And spent 23 years there. And the difference, we had Division I men's ice hockey at Michigan Tech and a very strong Division II athletic program. It was a great experience because it was a smaller athletic department. So you had the opportunity to evolve. So I added marketing duties a couple of years after I got started there. And then my last 7 or 8 years, I was assistant athletic director and managed coaches searches and building agreements and just a broader portfolio of things to gain experience in. And then had the opportunity to come here. Again, narrowed the lane to just kind of communications content, but like you mentioned, much broader, not only within our country, but worldwide with the intersections you have within the International Ice Hockey Federation, nations across the world. Obviously, in our country, dealt with the media at Michigan Tech, but now you're dealing with national level media, just a different spectrum, if you will. Both absolutely awesome and fun experiences, and if you can. I always tell young people, if you can find something that you largely like, you're probably not going to like every little thing every day, but find something you find joy in getting up every morning. And that's the biggest possible bonus you can get in life.
Absolutely, and that's exactly where I wanted to take the next question there, Dave. Is we had Ken Danico on a couple episodes ago. Devils legend, right? He played 20 plus years on the ice, and he's been there 20 plus years off the ice now. And your career's similar, maybe not on the ice, but you were at Michigan Tech for a very long time. Now you've been at USA Hockey a very long time. I think our society is a little instant gratification-y sometimes, where people like to jump ship if it's not quite working out on day one, and always looking for that next best thing, moving around maybe a little bit too much. Tell me about being at those organizations so long, being a part of it, watching it build. Seems like loyalty is a big factor in your career and your personality there. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and you're right, Nick. In conversation I have with young kids today, you're right there. I mean, they get anxious and they want the next thing, like a year after they started, 2 years. I'm like, calm down, take life as it comes, and desire and trying to reach new horizons. That is an excellent thing. Never want to tamp that down, but it's different. I mean, I think the mobility of young professionals today is much different than when I first started in my career. I probably a little bit on the unusual side now. I mean, you mentioned Ken and my career. I mean, again, to be two places only. Again, have had varying roles and growth within the jobs I've had in both of those. But it just kind of depends what you like. But find something you like, and not everybody is suited to climb to the top of the ladder, whatever. Some people slot in below, and they're good there. They're happy there, and they stay there. And mentally, I think, just as a professional, you have to try and sort through that. I think in my case, I've just found joy in where I've been. There are things that, I got the job here. It was a big change. I thought, you know what? I didn't know I was going to be here still today, but I think, some of the great people, USA Hockey at the core is a volunteer-based organization. That's been one of the big blessings of this job too, is get to meet people all over the country and their passions, their stories, and what they contribute outside their day job to our sport. So that's been enormously fun for me. I think one of the other things I really didn't consider when I came here is, you talk about the National Hockey League. Like I've gotten to know players and staff from every single NHL team. So people often ask, "What's your favorite NHL team?" I'm like, I don't really have one. I mean, people from everywhere, so I just root for our American players and root for good games, and especially 7-game series when it comes to the playoffs. And now the same thing kind of in the PWHL. So no secret reason for how things have gone for me. I don't know. I just try and get up every day, take each day as it comes, and live life to its fullest every day.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. You roll with the punches, you let it come to you. You don't always have to be throwing the punches, right? And see where those opportunities go. One other thing that I always like to try to ask on these interviews, Dave, and I think you're definitely qualified to talk about here is the game continues to grow, right? Every year, registration, attention, eyeballs on TV, etc. What do you think a job, a career, a department within the game that's only going to continue to grow as our game gets more attention is?
Well, I've certainly seen directly the growth within the communications line. There's more jobs, and there's more jobs in hockey overall than there ever has been before. That's for sure. And within what we do, there's more jobs than ever. And where AI takes us and how that gets utilized in shaping the future is fascinating. We certainly, I think, all use it to some degree in varying fashions. I think it's kind of exploded here in short order. I don't know exactly. I don't have the crystal ball on what that's going to mean. You read some of the stories and you go, ooh. Much like when social channels were born, and there's a lot of good, and then there's also some ill, and I'm sure that's the same thing with AI. But um, you know, I think the whole player agent and representation industry, as more money has come into the sport, has grown. The rink industry, we can always use more rinks, but certainly that continues to grow, and that's one of the good things as the sport has continued to evolve and more people. Um, that have the wherewithal to support it in different ways, particularly on the facility side. There's probably going to be some more opportunity there as well, and certainly for players. I mean, we see the growth of the sport. You want to make a career out of playing the game. There are more opportunities in that realm than there ever before, not just in North America, but across the world. And I think players are aware of that.
100%. Yeah, more teams, more leagues, expansion, etc. But the rinks is a really interesting point there. I hadn't thought about that one much, but you're right. Like so many, rinks in your big cities, your big towns are all booked up. The ice times are a little bit crazy sometimes because there's again, that's a great problem to have because it means people are lacing up and playing our game. But that's a great thought there as well. The last one that I always ask here, Dave, and we've touched on a few good lessons throughout, but what's the best piece of career advice that you could give to somebody looking to break into hockey communications or marketing today?
Yeah, I think a few things when you're a young person, networking. Life's about people at the end of the day. The quicker you can realize that, the more success you're going to have. And by that, I mean just what I said. People matter. Relationships matter, and you don't have to be best friends with everybody. I don't mean that, but when you're out and you meet somebody, get their information. I mean, we all have digital directories. Hopefully, put their contact info in there, put in the notes a few things about your interaction. You're not going to remember everything as the years turn along, but you'll be surprised in 5 years, you'll go back and go, oh, I met that person and I'm going to give them a buzz. They might be able to be of some help here, or I can pick their brain on this topic. So I think that's really important when you're young. You need to work hard to get varied experience. A lot of that will be volunteer. It's not all going to be paid, and you need to come to grips with that. And whatever track you're interested in, and maybe there's many of them. I mean, but if you're interested in just a single track, whatever it might be, try and make sure you understand all facets and ask questions. For instance, in my time in communications, I was always asking questions about the business side of things, ticket sales, marketing. As time went along, some of the human resources stuff and personnel, probably the toughest job for people that manage people. That's the toughest part of the job. So be interested and always be curious. I mean, you've got to keep that with you throughout your young time, all the way through your career. We've always got to be learning and evolving, and be curious. Ask lots of questions. I think those really are the things that come to mind when you're just kind of starting out. And I've always probably, I think it was in high school, I got, somebody gave me a plaque and I still live by this 3 lines today: trust in God, believe in yourself, dare to dream. And I think that last part too, be a risk taker. It's not failure. It's unfinished success. So, I mean, life's a long journey. So don't be afraid to dream and chase your dreams. Will they all come true? Who knows? But if you don't chase them, you'll never find out.
Very well said. I think that's phenomenal advice, Dave, and a perfect way to wrap this up. So can't thank you enough for the time here, for the insight, the advice, and guys, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Working in Hockey Show. We'll see you next week.